Captain Torvak stood on the bridge of the Valorian research vessel Astral Whisper, watching the strange planet grow larger on the main screen. The world looked ordinary enough from space: brown and green patches of land, blue oceans, white clouds, swirling in familiar patterns, but their sensors had picked up something that should not be there. "Captain," called out his science officer, Dr. Nyleth. Her purple skin glowed softly as she bent over her readings. "The energy signatures are definitely artificial. Someone built something down there." Torvak moved closer to look at her screen. The Valorian had been exploring this part of space for decades, mapping empty worlds and cataloging resources. According to all their records, this planet was supposed to be empty. No life, no cities, no reason for anyone to visit. "How old?" he asked. Dr. Nyleth adjusted her instruments. "Hard to say from up here. Maybe 300 years, maybe more. The energy patterns are very faint now. 300 years ago, this region of space was completely unknown to any civilization. The Valorians had only started exploring beyond their home system 200 years ago. Most other species they knew about had done the same. So who could have built something here so long ago? "Take us down," Torvak ordered. "Full scanning protocols. If someone was here before us, I want to know who." The ship descended through the planet's atmosphere. As they got closer, their sensors began to pick up more details. There were definitely structures on the surface, spread across several square kilometers. But they were quiet now. No energy signatures, no movement. "Captain," said communications specialist Vextar, his long fingers dancing over his controls. "I'm picking up metal alloys that match human construction methods." Torvak felt his breathing slow. Humans. That was unexpected. The humans were a young species, barely 200 years into space travel. Their ships were slow, their technology basic compared to most galactic civilizations. What would humans be doing this far from their home system, and so long ago? "Are you certain?" he asked. "The metal signatures are definitely human-made," Vextar confirmed. "Steel alloys, aluminum compounds, even some titanium. It's their standard construction pattern." Dr. Nyleth looked up from her screens. "Captain, if humans built this, they were much further advanced than anyone thought. According to galactic records, humans didn't have faster-than-light travel 300 years ago. They couldn't have reached this system." Torvak considered this. Either their records were wrong, or something very strange had happened here. "Set us down near the largest structure cluster. Full security protocols." The ship landed in a flat area near what looked like the remains of a small city. Through the viewports, they could see buildings that were clearly human in design. Straight lines, right angles, the practical style that humans preferred. But many of the structures were damaged, some half-collapsed, others looking like they had been abandoned in a hurry. "Atmosphere is breathable for humans," reported Dr. Nyleth. "Oxygen levels good, no dangerous gases. This world could support human life without too much technology." "Security team to the landing bay," Torvak announced over the ship's communication system. "Full exploration gear. We're going to take a look." 20 minutes later, Torvak led a team of 6 Valorians out of their ship and into the alien settlement. The first thing he noticed was how quiet everything was. No sounds of machinery, no power systems humming, not even any animal noises. Just the wind blowing through empty buildings. Dr. Nyleth immediately began taking readings with her portable scanner. "Definitely human construction," she confirmed. But look at this. Some of these materials are not standard human alloys. There are elements here that humans shouldn't have had access to 300 years ago. They walked deeper into the settlement. The buildings were laid out in a logical pattern. Residential areas, what looked like workshops and laboratories, storage facilities, and in the center, a larger building that might have been some kind of command center. Security Chief Grendor pointed to the edges of the settlement. "Captain, look at those structures. Those are defensive positions." Torvak looked where Grendor was pointing. Around the outside of the settlement, there were half-built walls and what looked like weapon emplacements. They were unfinished, as if the builders had been interrupted in the middle of their work. "What were they defending against?" asked Dr. Nyleth. "Good question," Torvak replied. "Scan for any signs of battle damage." As they explored further, they began to find personal belongings scattered throughout the buildings. Clothes that were clearly human-sized, tools designed for human hands, even some books written in human languages. But everything was covered in dust and looked like it had been abandoned quickly. In one building that looked like living quarters, Vextar found something interesting. "Captain, over here. This looks like some kind of communication device." The device was built into a wall, with a screen and several controls. It was clearly human technology, but more advanced than anything Torvak had seen from human worlds. "Can you activate it?" he asked. Vextar worked on the controls for several minutes. "The power systems are dead, but there might be some kind of backup storage. If I can find the right connections..." Suddenly the screen flickered to life. Text appeared, written in what looked like an old human language. The words scrolled slowly across the screen, apparently some kind of automatic message. "What does it say?" asked Torvak. Dr. Nyleth pulled out her translation device and pointed it at the screen. After a moment, she looked up with a confused expression. "It's a log entry, dated 312 years ago. It says, Day 47 since landing. Food supplies running low. Taewoo has ordered all non-essential personnel to begin. Emergency rationing. The terraforming equipment is still not working properly. If we can't get the atmospheric processors online soon, we may not survive the winter." Torvak felt a chill run through him. These humans hadn't just visited this world. They had tried to live here. And from the sound of things, they had been in serious trouble. "Keep reading," he ordered. Dr. Nyleth worked with the translation device as more text appeared. "Day 51. Lost 3 more people to the fever. Nae Young thinks it might be something in the water, but the purification systems are working. Fine. Taewoo has ordered everyone to stay inside the main compound until we figure out what's happening." Day 68. The fever has stopped, but something else is happening. Na Young has been working on something in the medical bay. She won't tell anyone what it is, but she says it might help us survive. I don't like the look in her eyes. The 8-time messages continued, painting a picture of a human colony in serious trouble. They had come here with hopes of building a new settlement, but everything had gone wrong. Their equipment was failing, people were getting sick, and their leaders were becoming desperate. But as Dr. Nyleth read more entries, something else became clear. These humans had technology that was far more advanced than anything their civilization should have possessed 300 years ago. They talked about terraforming equipment, atmospheric processors, and medical devices that current human colonies barely had access to. "Captain," said Dr. Nyleth, looking up from the screen, "according to our records, humans didn't develop terraforming technology until 150 years ago. But these logs are from 300 years ago, and they're talking about it like it's normal equipment. Torvak studied the screen, watching more text scroll by. The final entries were becoming more disturbing. References to the protocol and something called phase transition appeared repeatedly. The tone of the messages was changing too, becoming more clinical and less emotional. "There's something else," added Dr. Nylith. "The final entries mention underground facilities. If there are deeper levels to this settlement, there might be more information down there." Torvak looked around the abandoned settlement, feeling more confused than when they had arrived. Nothing about this place made sense. Humans who shouldn't have been able to reach this system, technology they shouldn't have possessed, and most disturbing of all, no bodies, no clear signs of what had happened to the colonists. "Begin detailed scans of the entire settlement," he ordered. "I want to know everything about this place, and start looking for those underground facilities. If these humans left any more records behind, I want to find them." As his team spread out to begin their investigation, Torvak couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled onto something much bigger than a simple abandoned colony. The humans had been here for a reason, and whatever had happened to them, it had been important. Enough to leave detailed records behind. He just hoped that finding those records wouldn't lead to more questions than answers. Dr. Nylith spent the next 3 days working on the human communication device, trying to extract more information from its memory systems. The device was more complex than it had first appeared. What looked like simple communication equipment actually contained massive amounts of stored data, all protected by encryption that was surprisingly sophisticated for such old technology. Captain Torvak visited her work area regularly, growing more impatient each time. "Any progress?" he asked during his morning check-in. "Some," Dr. Nylith replied, not looking up from her screens. "The humans used multiple layers of data protection. Not just passwords, but biological scanners, voice recognition, even genetic locks. Whoever built this really didn't want outsiders reading their files. But you can break through? Eventually? The good news is that the power cells in this device are remarkable. After 300 years, they still have enough energy to run the systems. Human engineering is better than we thought." Communications specialist Vextar had been helping with the translation work. His species had natural language processing abilities that made him excellent at breaking down unknown communication patterns. "Dr. Nylith, I think I found something interesting in the data structure," he called out. She walked over to his station, where lines of translated text were appearing on his screen. "What did you find?" "The files are organized in a very specific way," Vextar explained. "There are multiple user accounts, each with different access levels. The highest level accounts belong to someone called Tae Woo and another person named Na Young. But there are dozens of other accounts with partial access." "How many people were in this colony?" asked Dr. Nylith. Vextar checked his readings. "Based on the user accounts, at least 200 individuals. Maybe more. This wasn't a small outpost. It was a major settlement." Dr. Nylith felt a chill. 200 humans 300 years ago in a system that nobody was supposed to know about. That wasn't an exploration mission. That was a full colonization effort. "Can you access the high-level accounts?" she asked. "Working on it," Vextar replied. "The Taewu account seems to be some kind of military profile. The security protocols are intense, but I'm making progress on the Na Young account. It looks like medical and scientific data." Over the next few hours, they managed to break through the first layer of security on Na Young's files. What they found made both of them call for Captain Torvak immediately. "Captain, you need to see this," Dr. Nylith said when he arrived. "We've accessed some of the medical records and they're disturbing." Torvak looked at the screen where medical charts and data were displayed. Even without understanding human biology completely, he could tell something was wrong. "What am I looking at?" "Medical procedures," said Vextar, "but not normal ones. These records show systematic modifications to human DNA, cellular structure, even organ function. This young person was performing experimental surgery on the entire colony." Dr. Nyleth pulled up another file. "Look at this progression chart. It shows changes to human metabolism over time. The colonists were being altered to process different types of food, breathe different atmospheric mixtures, even survive in different temperature ranges. They were adapting themselves to live on this world," Torvak said, understanding beginning to dawn. "It's more than that," Dr. Nyleth replied. "These modifications go far beyond simple environmental adaptation. Some of these changes would give humans abilities they never had before. Enhanced strength, improved reflexes, better healing rates. It's like they were trying to make themselves into something more than human." Vextar had been working on accessing more files. "Captain, I've broken through another security layer on the Tewu account. These are definitely military records, but they're not what I expected." He displayed the new files on the main screen. Instead of standard military reports, they were looking at what appeared to be strategic planning documents. Maps of star systems, resource calculations, population estimates for dozens of different worlds. "This doesn't look like colony management," observed Torvak. "This looks like preparation for something much larger." Dr. Nyleth studied the strategic files more carefully. "These resource calculations are massive. They're planning for supplies that could support millions of people, not just a few hundred colonists." "And look at these star charts," added Vextar. "They show detailed information about star systems across this entire region of space. Information that wouldn't have been available to anyone 300 years ago. How did they know about all these worlds?" Torvak felt his concern growing. "Keep working on those files. I want to know everything about what these humans were planning." As they continued decoding the records, a pattern began to emerge. The human colony wasn't just trying to survive on this world. They were using it as some kind of testing ground. The medical experiments, the advanced technology, the strategic planning, it all pointed to preparation for something much bigger. Dr. Nyleth found more disturbing details in Na Young's medical files. "Captain, these humans weren't just modifying themselves for environmental adaptation. Some of these procedures were designed to enhance their ability to interface with alien technology." "What do you mean?" asked Torvak. "Neural modifications that would allow them to process information faster. Sensory enhancements that would let them detect electromagnetic patterns used by non-human communication systems, even modifications to their brain chemistry that would help them understand alien thought patterns." Vexatar looked up from his station with a worried expression. "Captain, I found something else. References to other colonies on other worlds. This wasn't the only human settlement of this type." "How many others?" asked Torvak. "The files mention at least 12 other locations, all of them established around the same time, all of them running similar experimental programs." Dr. Nyleth felt her breathing become rapid. 12 colonies, all conducting advanced research, all established by humans who shouldn't have had the technology to reach any of these systems. "Captain, this suggests a level of coordination and planning that would require resources far beyond what humans had access to 300 years ago." Torvak finished. "Either our information about human capabilities is completely wrong, or something else was helping them." As they worked deeper into the files, more disturbing details emerged. The colonists had been in regular communication with other settlements. sharing research data and coordinating their experiments. The medical modifications were being tested and refined across multiple colonies, with successful improvements being shared among all the settlements. But most disturbing of all were the references to the protocol that had appeared in the earlier log entries. As they decoded more files, it became clear that the protocol was some kind of emergency procedure that all the colonies were prepared to implement. "Look at this," said Vextar, displaying a new file. "It's a communication from Tae Wu to all the other colony leaders. It talks about phase transition and dormancy protocols. It sounds like they were planning to shut down all the colonies and wait for something." "Wait for what?" asked Dr. Nyleth. "That's what's disturbing," replied Vextar. "The files refer to contact protocols and alien engagement procedures. They were preparing for the day when other species would find them." Torvak felt a cold realization wash over him. They were expecting us. Not specifically us, but alien. Contact in general. These colonies were set up to be found. Dr. Nyleth pulled up more technical files. "Captain, look at this equipment manifest. They had technology for deep underground construction, advanced life support systems that could run for centuries, and something called revival procedures that could wake people from extended, suspended animation. They built these colonies to last," observed Vextar. "Even if everyone died or left, the facilities could maintain themselves and wait for someone to find them." As the picture became clearer, Torvak realized they weren't just looking at an abandoned human settlement. They were looking at evidence of a sophisticated plan that had been implemented across multiple star systems, involving technology and coordination that shouldn't have been possible for humans of that era. "Continue working on those files," he ordered. "I want to know everything about this protocol they keep mentioning, and start scanning for those underground facilities. If these humans were as prepared as their records suggest, there might be more than just data storage down there." Dr. Nyleth nodded and returned to her work, but Torvak could see the concern in her expression. Whatever they were uncovering about this human colony, it was becoming clear that the humans had been planning something much more complex than simple colonization. As he walked back to the command center, Torvak couldn't shake the feeling that finding this colony hadn't been an accident. If the humans had been preparing for alien contact, and if they had built their settlements to be discovered, then maybe their arrival here was exactly what the humans had been waiting for. The question that worried him most was, what happened after contact was made? Field researcher Kelvin had always prided himself on understanding alien architecture. In his 40 years of exploration, he had studied the building methods of dozens of different species. But as he walked through the outer sections of the human settlement, he found himself completely confused. "Dr. Thane," he called to the expedition's biologist, "you need to see this." Dr. Thane hurried over to where Kelvin was standing next to one of the residential buildings. At first glance, it looked like typical human construction. Straight walls, right angles, practical design. But when Kelvin pointed his scanner at the walls, something strange appeared on the readings. "These walls," Kelvin said, pointing at his device. "They're not just built. They're grown." Dr. Thane looked confused. "What do you mean, grown?" "Look at the molecular structure," Kelvin explained, showing her his scanner display. "The building materials have cellular patterns. These walls were constructed using some kind of biological process, like growing a plant or forming bone tissue." Dr. Thane took readings with her own equipment. "That's impossible. Humans don't have biotechnology advanced enough to grow buildings. Even our most advanced civilizations struggle with large-scale biological construction." But the evidence was clear. As they examined more buildings, they found the same patterns everywhere. The human settlement had started with traditional construction methods, metal frameworks, concrete foundations, standard building techniques. But over time, the buildings had been modified and expanded using what could only be described as biological growth. "Captain Torvak needs to see this," said Dr. Thane. While they waited for the captain to arrive, Kelvin and Dr. Thane continued their examination of the settlement. The biological modifications weren't random. They showed clear planning and purpose. The grown sections were stronger than the original construction, better insulated, and more efficiently designed. "Look at this," Dr. Thane said, pointing to a section where the original human wall connected to the grown extension. The biological material has actually bonded with the original construction at the molecular level. It's not just attached, it's integrated. Captain Torvak arrived with Dr. Nyleth, who immediately began taking her own readings. "This is remarkable," she said after examining the walls. "The biological components are definitely based on human DNA, but they've been modified extensively. It's like someone took human genetic material and redesigned it to function as building material." "Who could do something like that?" asked Kelvin. "According to the medical files we've been decoding, someone named Na Young was conducting advanced genetic research," replied Dr. Nyleth. "But this level of biotechnology is far beyond anything we thought humans were capable of." Dr. Thane had moved deeper into the settlement and was examining what appeared to be agricultural areas. "Captain, you should see this too. The farming sections are even more disturbing." They followed her to an area where the humans had clearly been growing food. But instead of normal farming equipment, they found cultivation chambers that looked more like medical devices than agricultural tools. "These aren't just growing plants," Dr. Thane explained. "These chambers were designed to cultivate organisms that don't exist in nature. Look at these genetic profiles." She showed them readings from the soil samples. The plant remains in these chambers show genetic modifications that would allow them to grow in almost any environment. Extreme cold, high radiation, toxic atmosphere, these plants could survive conditions that would kill normal vegetation. Kelvin studied the chamber designs. "How were they controlling the growth process?" "That's the disturbing part," replied Dr. Thane. "These chambers weren't just automated. They required constant biological input from human operators. DNA samples, neural tissue, even brain fluid. The humans were literally incorporating parts of themselves into their food production." Captain Torvak felt his breathing become shallow. They were modifying their food supply using their own biological material? "It's more than that," said Dr. Nyleth, who had been studying the data from her portable computer. "Based on the genetic patterns, these humans were creating a closed biological system. The plants were modified using human genetic material, then the humans ate the plants, which would further modify their own biology. It's a feedback loop." Dr. Thane had found more evidence near the medical facilities. "Captain, these medical devices are unlike anything I've ever seen. They're designed for procedures that would fundamentally alter human biology." The medical bay contained equipment that looked more like torture devices than healing tools. There were chambers large enough to hold human bodies with connections for multiple biological systems, genetic sequencing equipment that could rewrite DNA in real time, even devices that appeared designed to modify human brain structure. "What were they doing to themselves?" asked Kelvin. Dr. Nyleth consulted her translation files. "According to Na Young's medical logs, they were adapting to survive on this world. But these procedures go far beyond environmental adaptation. Some of these modifications would change fundamental aspects of human biology. Like what? Asked Captain Torvak. Enhanced healing that could regenerate entire organs. Modifications to the nervous system that would allow direct interface with electronic equipment. Changes to brain chemistry that would permit telepathic communication. These humans weren't just adapting, they were evolving themselves into something completely different. As they explored more of the medical facility, they found evidence that the modifications had been successful. Blood samples showed human DNA that had been extensively altered. Brain tissue samples revealed neural structures that had been artificially enhanced. Even bone fragments showed mineral compositions that would make them far stronger than normal human bones. But most disturbing were the final medical logs that Dr. Nyleth was able to translate. The last entries from Na Young describe something she calls phase completion. It sounds like the medical modifications were just the first step in a larger transformation process. Phase completion of what? Asked Dr. Thane. The logs mention preparation for extended dormancy and contact protocols. It sounds like the humans were preparing to enter some kind of suspended animation state, but not the kind that simply preserves the body. This was designed to maintain active biological systems for centuries while keeping the subjects ready for immediate revival. Kelvin had been scanning the deeper areas of the medical facility. Captain, my equipment is detecting large underground chambers beneath this building. Much larger than anything we've seen so far. Captain Torvak studied Kelvin's readings. How large? Big enough to hold hundreds of people with life support systems that appear to still be active. Dr. Thane felt a chill run through her. Active life support? After 300 years? The energy signatures are faint, but definitely present, confirmed Kelvin. Whatever is down there, it's still operational. Dr. Nyleth checked her data files. The medical logs mention something called the Deep Facility. Na Young refers to it as the place where the protocol would be implemented. Captain Torvak made a decision. We need to access those underground chambers. If there are still active systems down there, we need to know what they're maintaining. As his team prepared to investigate the underground facility, Torvak reflected on what they had discovered so far. The humans who had built this settlement weren't just colonists trying to survive on a hostile world. They were researchers conducting experiments that would fundamentally change what it meant to be human. The biological modifications to their buildings, their food, and their own bodies suggested a level of planning and coordination that went far beyond simple survival. These humans had been preparing for something specific, something that required them to become something more than their original species. But what worried Torvak most was the evidence that their preparations had been successful. The modified DNA, the enhanced biology, the integrated technology. It all suggested that the human transformation had been completed before the colony went dormant. If there were still active systems underground, maintaining life support for hundreds of people, then the question wasn't what had happened to the human colonists. The question was whether they were still down there, waiting for someone to find them. And if they were, what had they become after 300 years of biological evolution? As his team prepared their equipment for underground exploration, Torvak couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover that the abandoned human colony wasn't abandoned at all. It was simply waiting for the right moment to wake up. The question that terrified him was, what would happen when it did? Captain Torvak stood at the entrance to the underground facility, watching his security team set up the equipment needed to breach the sealed doorway. Security Chief Grendor had recommended against entering the underground chambers, pointing out that they had no idea what might be waiting for them down there. But Torvak's curiosity had won over his caution. "Charges are set, Captain," reported Grendor. "But I want to go on record that this feels like a bad idea." "Your objection is noted," replied Torvak. "Proceed with the breach." The explosion was smaller than expected, just enough to crack the seal around the underground entrance. As the smoke cleared, they could see that the door itself had been designed to open from the inside, with backup systems that could be triggered by external force. Someone wanted to make sure this place could be opened even if the internal systems failed, observed Dr. Nyleth. The entrance led to a stairway that descended deep into the earth. Emergency lighting had activated automatically when the door was breached, illuminating a path that seemed to go down much further than should have been possible. "How deep does this go?" asked Kelvin, peering down the stairwell. Grendor checked his scanner. "At least 200 meters, maybe more. This isn't just a basement. It's a major underground complex." They descended the stairs carefully, with Grendor's security team leading the way. The walls were made of the same biological material they had found in the surface buildings, but down here it looked newer, more vital. In some places the walls actually seemed to pulse slightly, as if they were still alive. The biological components down here are much more active, noted Dr. Thane, taking readings as they walked. Whatever process the humans used to grow these structures, it's still working. After descending for nearly 20 minutes, they reached the bottom of the stairway and found themselves in a corridor that extended in both directions. The lighting here was brighter, more consistent, suggesting that the power systems were in much better condition than anything they had found on the surface. "This place was built to last," said Dr. Nyleth, examining the construction. "The biological components have been maintaining and repairing themselves for centuries." They chose to go left first, following the corridor to what appeared to be a series of laboratories. But these labs were nothing like the primitive medical facility they had found on the surface. These were advanced research centers with equipment that would have been impressive even by current galactic standards. "Look at this genetic sequencing equipment," said Dr. Thane, studying a machine that filled most of one room. "This could map and modify the entire genetic structure of any organism in real time. We don't have technology this advanced." Kelvin was examining another room filled with what looked like biological cultivation chambers. "These chambers are designed to grow complete organisms from scratch. Not just plants or simple animals, complex life forms with engineered biology. But what really caught their attention were the computer systems. Unlike the primitive communication device they had found on the surface, these computers were still fully operational, with active screens displaying current data. "Captain," called Dr. Nyleth from a central control room, "these systems are not just active. They're monitoring something. Look at these readings." The main screen showed biological monitoring data for hundreds of individual subjects. Heart rates, brain activity, cellular regeneration rates, all updating in real time. "What are they monitoring?" asked Torvak. "I'm not sure," replied Dr. Nyleth, working with the computer interface. "But whatever it is, it's alive, and the systems are actively maintaining it." As she navigated through the computer files, they began to find more detailed information about the underground facility. This wasn't just a research center. It was a complete self-sustaining ecosystem designed to support human life for centuries. The files revealed that the facility had been constructed over a period of several years, using the same biological growth technology they had seen on the surface. But down here, the technology had been perfected. The walls weren't just grown. They were living systems that could repair themselves, regulate temperature and humidity, and even provide basic life support. According to these files, said Dr. Nyleth, this facility was designed to house the entire colony population in extended suspended animation, but not the kind of hibernation we're familiar with. This is something much more sophisticated. Vextar had been working on translating more of the computer files. Captain, I've found detailed logs from both Taiwu and Na Young. These are much more complete than anything we found on the surface. What do they say? Asked Torvak. The final entries describe the implementation of something they call the protocol. It sounds like the entire colony underwent the final phase of their biological modifications and then entered suspended animation. When? Asked Dr. Thane. According to the timestamps, about 250 years ago. They've been down here in suspended animation for 2.5 centuries. The implications of this hit everyone at the same time. The human colony wasn't abandoned. The colonists were still here, sleeping in the underground facility, maintained by biological systems that had kept them alive for hundreds of years. Where are they? Asked Grendor, his hand moving instinctively to his weapon. Dr. Nyleth worked with the computer interface, following the monitoring data to its source. According to the system maps, there's a chamber complex deeper in the facility. That's where the life signs are coming from. As they ventured deeper into the underground complex, they found more evidence of the sophistication of human planning. The facility wasn't just designed to keep people alive, it was designed to continue their biological evolution while they slept. Look at these modification chambers, said Dr. Thane, examining equipment in one of the deeper labs. These systems have been continuously refining the colonists' biology while they've been in suspended animation. They're not the same humans who went to sleep 250 years ago. The files they found described a process called directed evolution, where the suspended colonists were gradually modified over time, becoming more adapted to their environment and more capable of surviving in hostile conditions. But the files also revealed something more disturbing. The modifications weren't just for survival. They were specifically designed to enhance the human's ability to interact with alien species. According to Na Young's research notes, said Vexistar, the biological modifications include enhanced pattern recognition that would help them understand alien communication methods, modified brain chemistry that would allow them to process non-human thought patterns, and even genetic markers that would help them interface with alien technology. They were preparing to meet us, said Torvak quietly, not just to survive until we found them, but to be ready to interact with us when we did. As they reached the deepest level of the facility, they found the main suspension chamber, a vast room filled with hundreds of individual life support pods. The pods were translucent, allowing them to see the figures sleeping inside, but these weren't normal humans. Even through the suspension fluid, they could see that the figures had been extensively modified. Their bodies were taller, more muscular, with visible changes to their bone structure and organ placement. Their skin had a slight luminescent quality, and their hair seemed to shift color in the pod lighting. How long until they wake up? Asked Grendor nervously. Dr. Nyleth checked the computer systems. According to the monitoring data, the suspension process is designed to respond to external stimuli, specifically the presence of alien life forms. You mean us? Asked Kelvin. The systems have been monitoring our presence since we breached the entrance, confirmed Dr. Nyleth. Our alien biology is triggering the revival protocols. Torvak felt his breathing become rapid. How long do we have? According to the computer, The revival process takes approximately 6 hours from initiation. We triggered it when we entered the facility 3 hours ago. As if responding to their conversation, soft chimes began to sound throughout the chamber. The lighting became brighter, and the life support pods began to show increased activity. "Captain," said Dr. Thane, watching her biological scanner, "the life signs in the pods are becoming more active. Brain activity is increasing. Cellular regeneration is accelerating. They're waking up." Torvak looked around the chamber at hundreds of pods containing modified humans who had been sleeping for centuries, waiting for alien contact. Humans who had spent that time being continuously evolved to be better at interacting with species, like his own. "We need to get back to the ship," he said finally. "If these humans have been preparing for contact with aliens for 300 years, we need to be ready for whatever happens when they wake up." But as they turned to leave, Dr. Nyleth noticed something on the computer screens. "Captain, wait. According to these systems, the revival process can't be stopped once it's started. And there's something else. The facility has been sending out signals since we arrived." "What kind of signals?" asked Torvak. "Communication signals. Broadcast. To specific coordinates throughout this region of space. The same coordinates that were listed in those strategic planning files we found earlier." The realization hit him like a physical blow. "They're waking up the other colonies." As they hurried back, Captain Torvak and his team had barely reached the surface when the ground beneath their feet began to vibrate. A low, rhythmic humming sound came from the underground facility, growing stronger by the minute. Throughout the abandoned settlement, systems that had been dark for centuries suddenly came to life. "Captain," said communications specialist Vextar, checking his portable scanner, "energy readings from the underground facility are increasing rapidly. Whatever's happening down, there it's big." Dr. Nyleth was monitoring the biological readings from her equipment. "The life signs we detected are becoming much stronger. Brain activity, cellular regeneration, metabolic processes, everything is accelerating." Security Chief Grendor had positioned his team around the entrance to the underground facility, but he looked nervous. "Captain, should we seal the entrance? We don't know what's coming up from down there." Before Torvak could answer, the humming sound stopped. The sudden silence was somehow more disturbing than the noise had been. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then, slowly, they could hear footsteps coming up the stairway from the underground complex. "Two individuals," reported Grendor, listening carefully. "Moving slowly, but steadily. They're not trying to hide their approach." The footsteps grew closer, and then two figures appeared at the entrance to the underground facility. They looked human, but only barely. Both were tall, taller than normal humans, with lean, muscular builds that moved with fluid grace. Their skin had a slight luminescent quality that made them seem to glow in the daylight. The first figure was male, with dark hair that seemed to shift between brown and black, depending on how the light hit it. The second was female, with hair that changed from black to deep blue as she moved. Both had eyes that were larger than normal human eyes, with irises that showed flecks of silver. But what was most disturbing was how calm they appeared. After sleeping for centuries and waking to find alien visitors, they showed no signs of confusion, fear, or surprise. The male figure stepped forward and spoke in a voice that somehow seemed to resonate directly in the minds of the listening aliens. "Welcome. We have been waiting for you. I am Hyun-woo, and this is Mireille. We are the designated contact representatives for this colony." Captain Torvak found himself able to understand the words perfectly, even though the human was speaking in what should have been an unknown language. How are we able to understand you? The modifications we underwent included enhancements to our communication abilities, replied Mireille, her voice carrying the same strange resonance. We can interface directly with most neural patterns, allowing for immediate translation and understanding. Dr. Nyleth stepped forward, trying to overcome her nervousness. We found records indicating that your colony was established 300 years ago. You've been in suspended animation all this time? Not suspended animation, corrected Hyunwoo. Directed evolution. We have been growing, changing, adapting while we waited. The time was necessary to complete our transformation. Transformation. Into what? Asked Kelvin. Mireille smiled, and when she did, her teeth showed the same slight luminescence as her skin. Into what we needed to become for the next phase of the plan. Torvak felt a chill run through him. What plan? The plan to prepare this region of space for what is coming, said Hyunwoo simply. Your arrival here was anticipated. In fact, it was necessary. Vextar had been scanning the two humans with his equipment. Captain, their biology is unlike anything in our databases. Their neural activity is operating at levels that should be impossible, and their cellular structure shows modifications that would allow them to survive in almost any environment. We are no longer entirely human, acknowledged Mireille. The modifications have made us something new, something better adapted for the challenges ahead. Dr. Thane found her voice. What challenges? What are you preparing for? Hyunwoo and Mireille exchanged a look that seemed to convey more information than should have been possible in such a brief glance. That is a longer conversation, said Hyunwoo. But first, we should address the immediate situation. What do you mean? Asked Torvak. Mireille gestured toward their ship. Your arrival triggered more than just our revival. The signal has been sent to all the other colonies in this region. They are waking up as well. How many other colonies? Demanded Grendor. In this sector? 47, replied Hyunwoo calmly. Across the broader region, several hundred. All of them have been waiting for this moment. The implications hit Torvak like a physical blow. Hundreds of human colonies, all containing modified humans who had been evolving for centuries, all waking up simultaneously because of their arrival. Why were you waiting for alien contact? Asked Dr. Nyleth. Because the next phase of the plan required interaction with other species, explained Mireille. We needed to understand how different alien civilizations would respond to discovery, how they would react to our presence, and how they could be integrated into the larger preparation. Integrated how? Asked Torvak, not sure he wanted to hear the answer. Hyunwoo walked over to examine their scanning equipment with obvious interest. May I? He asked, reaching toward Dr. Nyleth's biological scanner. She hesitated, then handed it to him. Hyunwoo took the device and, without touching any controls, somehow activated functions that Dr. Nyleth hadn't even known existed. Data began flowing across the screen in patterns that were far more complex than anything the device had displayed before. How did you do that? Asked Dr. Nyleth. One of our modifications allows direct interface with electronic systems, explained Hyunwoo, handing the scanner back. We can communicate with and control most forms of technology through biological contact. Mireille had been studying the aliens while Hyunwoo demonstrated the technology interface. Your species shows excellent potential for biological compatibility, she observed. The neural patterns are complex, the cellular structure is robust, and the genetic markers suggest good adaptation potential. Adaptation potential for what? Asked Dr. Thane. For the modifications that will be necessary when the real threat arrives, said Hyun-woo. Torvak felt his patience running out. What threat? What are you talking about? Mireille looked directly at him, and when their eyes met, he felt a strange sensation, as if she was reading his thoughts. Captain Torvak, your species has been developing in this region of space for thousands of years, believing you are safe and alone. But you are not alone. There are things in the darkness between galaxies that have been watching, waiting, following. What? Asked Vextar. Following us, said Hyun-woo simply. Humanity did not originate in this galaxy. We came here fleeing something that consumed our original home, and now, after centuries of hiding, that something has found us again. The silence that followed this statement was broken only by the sound of more systems activating throughout the settlement. Lights were coming on in buildings that had been dark for centuries. In the distance, they could see movement as more figures emerged from other underground facilities. How many of you are there? Asked Grendor, his hand moving toward his weapon. In this colony? 237 individuals, replied Mireille, all of them modified for specific functions, some for biological research, some for technology, interface, some for communication with alien species, and some for other purposes. What other purposes? Demanded Torvak. Hyun-woo's expression became more serious. For defense, Captain. For war. For the protection of all life in this galaxy, including your own people. As if to emphasize his point, more figures began emerging from the underground facilities throughout the settlement. These newcomers were clearly different from Hyun-woo and Mireille. Some were larger, more muscular, with modifications that suggested enhanced physical capabilities. Others were smaller, with enlarged heads and eyes that suggested enhanced mental abilities. All of them moved with the same fluid grace, and all of them looked at the alien visitors with expressions of calm interest rather than surprise. We have been preparing for this day for 300 years, said Mireille, preparing ourselves, preparing our technology, and preparing plans for the defense of this galaxy. Your arrival means the preparation phase is over. The question now, added Hyun-woo, is whether your species will help us in what comes next, or whether you will try to stop us. Torvak looked around at the dozens of modified humans who were now emerging from the settlement, at the systems that were coming online throughout the colony, and at the two beings who stood before him, speaking casually about galactic threats and species modification. What happens if we try to stop you? He asked. Mireille and Hyun-woo exchanged another of their meaningful glances. Then we will have to proceed without your cooperation, said Mireille. But, Captain, when you see what is coming, you will understand that cooperation is the only choice that leads to survival. As more modified humans gathered around them, Torvak realized that his simple exploration mission had turned into something much more complex and dangerous. The humans weren't just survivors of a failed colony. They were advance forces in a war that he didn't understand, preparing for an enemy he couldn't imagine. And now, whether he liked it or not, his people were going to be part of that war. Captain Torvak found himself sitting across from Hyun-woo and Mireille in what had once been the colony's main meeting hall. The building had transformed around them as they spoke, with biological walls adjusting lighting and temperature automatically. Dr. Nihilith and the rest of his team sat nearby, their scanning equipment forgotten as they listened to revelations that challenged everything they thought they knew about human civilization. "You said humanity didn't originate in this galaxy," said Torvak. "Where did you come from?" Hyunwoo leaned back in his chair, which seemed to adjust itself to support him perfectly. "From a galaxy that no longer exists, consumed by entities that feed on organized matter and energy. We called them the Devourers, though that is a rough translation of a concept that doesn't really have an equivalent in your language." "How long ago?" asked Dr. Nyleth. "Approximately 8,000 years, replied Mirai. "It took us that long to cross the void between galaxies and establish ourselves here. But we knew they would follow eventually. They always do." Vexatar looked confused. "According to our records, humans have only been spacefaring for a few hundred years. How could you have been traveling between galaxies for thousands of years?" Mirai smiled, and the expression was somehow both beautiful and unsettling. "Because the humans you know about are not the real human civilization. They are a carefully maintained cover story." "What do you mean?" asked Dr. Thane. Hyunwoo stood and walked to a wall, which responded to his presence by displaying a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Hundreds of star systems were marked in red, scattered throughout every sector of known space. Every major alien civilization in this galaxy has had contact with humans, he explained. But you've been led to believe that humans are a young, primitive species confined to a small region around their homeworld. That image has been carefully maintained to prevent anyone from understanding the true scope of human presence in the galaxy. Dr. Nyleth stared at the map. Those red markers. Human colonies, research stations, and monitoring posts, confirmed Mirai. Most of them hidden, some disguised as other species' settlements, others simply ignored because they appear to be uninhabited ruins like this one. Torvak felt his understanding of galactic politics beginning to crumble. "You're saying humans have been secretly present throughout the galaxy for thousands of years?" "Not secretly," corrected Hyunwoo. "Hidden in plain sight. Humans have been influencing galactic development, guiding technological progress, and preparing defenses for centuries. Your own species has had human contact dozens of times, but you never recognized it." "That's impossible," protested Kelvin. "We would have known." Mirai gestured to the wall, which displayed images of various alien worlds. "Humans are extremely adaptable. With the right modifications, we can pass for almost any species. We've had humans living among your people for generations, learning your culture, understanding your capabilities, and preparing contingency plans." "For what?" demanded Security Chief Grendor. "For integration," said Hyunwoo simply. "When the Devourers arrive, every species in this galaxy will need to work together to survive. But that level of cooperation can't be achieved without extensive preparation and planning." The wall display changed to show what appeared to be technical diagrams. "These are modification protocols we've developed for every major species in the galaxy," explained Mirai. "Biological and technological enhancements that will allow different species to work together more effectively." Dr. Thane studied the diagrams with growing alarm. "These aren't just enhancements. Some of these modifications would fundamentally change a species' biology." "Yes," agreed Hyunwoo, "because the coming war will require capabilities that no natural species possesses. Enhanced intelligence, improved communication, biological interfaces with advanced technology, and resistance to the Devourer's influence." "Their influence?" asked Torvak. Mirai's expression became grim. The Devourers don't just consume matter and energy. They can influence biological systems, turning a species' own members against them. The modifications we've developed include protections against that influence. Vextar had been studying the technical displays. These modification protocols, they're not theoretical. You've already tested them. Extensively, confirmed Hyunwoo. Every human colony has been conducting research on different aspects of the protocols. This colony focused on biological adaptation and alien interface technologies. Others have specialized in different areas. What other areas? Asked Dr. Nyleth. The wall display changed again, showing different types of research facilities. Weapons, development that can affect devourer biology. Communication systems that can coordinate across galactic distances instantly. Transportation technology that can move entire populations quickly. And most importantly, detection systems that can provide early warning of devourer approach. Mirai added. Each colony was also assigned specific alien species to study and develop integration protocols for. This colony was responsible for 17 different species, including yours. Torvak felt a chill run through him. You've been studying us specifically? For over 2 centuries, confirmed Hyunwoo. Your species shows excellent potential for modification, high intelligence, strong social bonds, good adaptation capabilities, and biological systems that integrate well with our enhancement technologies. You're talking about changing our entire species, said Dr. Thane. We're talking about saving your species, replied Mirai, and every other species in this galaxy. The Devourers consume everything, not just planets or star systems, but entire civilizations. Without preparation and modification, no natural species can survive their arrival. Grendor looked around at the other modified humans who had been quietly observing the conversation. How many humans are really out there? In this galaxy, approximately 50 million, spread across thousands of colonies and integration sites, said Hyunwoo. All of them modified for specific functions, all of them preparing for the same goal. The scale of what they were describing was staggering. Torvak tried to process the implications. You're telling us that human civilization has been secretly preparing our entire galaxy for a war against invaders from another galaxy. Yes, said Mirai simply, though secretly isn't quite accurate. We've been operating in the open, but using methods that ensure most species don't recognize the scope of our activities. Such as? Asked Dr. Nyleth. Hyunwoo gestured to himself, and Mirai. Modified humans can interface directly with most alien technology and biology. We can access your computer systems, understand your languages instantly, and even influence your thought patterns if necessary. This makes it very easy to redirect attention away from activities we don't want noticed. You've been manipulating us, said Vextar, anger creeping into his voice. We've been protecting you, corrected Mirai. Manipulation implies deception for selfish purposes. Everything we've done has been focused on ensuring that your species and every other species in this galaxy will be ready when the real threat arrives. Dr. Thane had been studying the modification protocols more carefully. Some of these enhancements would give humans capabilities far beyond any natural species. Enhanced strength, telepathic communication, direct technology interface, even the ability to survive in space without protection. The Devourers are not a natural species either, said Hyunwoo. They are the result of millions of years of directed evolution and technological integration. Fighting them requires capabilities that evolution alone cannot provide. Torvak stood and walked to the window, looking out at the human settlement that was continuing to come alive around them. More modified humans were emerging from underground facilities, and systems throughout the colony were activating. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now, the preparation phase ends, and the implementation phase begins," replied Mireille. "Every human colony is waking up simultaneously. Contact protocols are being initiated with every major species in the galaxy, and the final modifications are being prepared." Final modifications? Hyun-woo joined him at the window. "The modifications we've undergone so far were just the beginning. The final phase requires willing cooperation from alien species. The ultimate defense against the Devourers can only be achieved through biological and technological integration between humans and other species." "You want to merge our species with yours," said Dr. Nyleth. "We want to create something new," corrected Mireille. "Something that combines the best capabilities of every species in the galaxy. Something that can not only survive the Devourers' attack, but can drive them back and protect this galaxy permanently." Torvak turned back to face the two modified humans. "And if we refuse?" The silence that followed was answer enough. Outside, he could see dozens of modified humans moving through the settlement with clear purpose and coordination. These weren't desperate refugees or simple colonists. They were soldiers in a war that had been planned for thousands of years. "Captain," said Mireille finally, "when you see what's coming, refusal won't be an option. The only choice will be between joining us willingly or watching your civilization disappear." As if summoned by her words, alarms began sounding from their ship's communication system. Vextar quickly activated his portable communicator. "Captain," came the voice of their ship's sensor operator. Captain Torvak was still processing the implications of what Hyun-woo and Mireille had told him when his ship's communication array suddenly activated on its own. The familiar sounds of his crew's voices were replaced by something entirely different. A complex harmony of signals that seemed to carry multiple conversations simultaneously. "What's happening to our communications?" demanded Security Chief Grendor, reaching for his weapon. Hyun-woo held up a hand in a calming gesture. "Please, there's no danger. Your communication system is simply being integrated into our network. This was inevitable once contact was established." Communications specialist Vextar was frantically working with his portable equipment, trying to understand what was happening to their ship's systems. "Captain, I'm detecting communication signals on dozens of frequencies I've never seen before, and somehow our equipment is receiving and translating all of them simultaneously. The integration process allows your technology to interface with our communication network," explained Mireille. "You're now connected to every human colony in this sector of the galaxy." Dr. Nyleth stared at her scanner, which was displaying data, patterns unlike anything she had seen before. "How is this possible? Our equipment shouldn't be capable of processing this level of information. Human colonies have been gradually upgrading alien technology for centuries," said Hyun-woo. "Not, obviously, and not in ways that would be noticed, but sufficient to allow integration when necessary. Your communication array has components that were designed by humans, built by companies with human advisors, and installed by technicians who didn't realize they were preparing your ship for this moment." Torvak felt a cold realization wash over him. "You've been manipulating our technology development for centuries." "Guiding," corrected Mireille. "Every major technological advancement made by your species, and most others in the galaxy, has included subtle improvements suggested by human advisors. Nothing that would change the basic function of the technology, but enough to ensure compatibility when integration became necessary. Vextar had managed to access some of the communication signals. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from across the galaxy. These aren't just human colonies. I'm detecting signals from dozens of different species, all communicating simultaneously. The network includes more than just human settlements, explained Hyunwoo. Many alien species have been partially integrated already, though most of them don't realize it. Scientists who have worked with human advisors, diplomats who have had extended contact with human representatives, even traders who have done business with human merchants. Dr. Thane looked alarmed. You're saying there are already modified aliens throughout the galaxy? Not modified in the same way we are, said Mireille, but prepared for integration. Biological markers that allow for enhanced communication, neural patterns that facilitate cooperation, immune system improvements that provide resistance to devourer influence. Most of the changes are so subtle that the individuals don't even notice them. As Vextar continued monitoring the communications, his expression became increasingly disturbed. Captain, these transmissions include detailed information about every major alien civilization in the galaxy. Population centers, military capabilities, technological levels, even psychological profiles of political leaders. Information that has been gathered over centuries of careful observation and interaction, confirmed Hyunwoo. Knowledge that will be essential for coordinating the defense of the galaxy. Torvak walked over to examine Vextar's equipment. The communication signals were indeed carrying massive amounts of data, more information than should have been possible to transmit simultaneously. How long has this network been in place? The basic framework has existed for over 1,000 years, replied Mireille, but it has been gradually expanded and refined as human colonies established themselves throughout the galaxy. The full activation you're witnessing now represents the culmination of centuries of preparation. Dr. Nyleth had been studying the biological readings from her scanner. I'm detecting changes in my own neural patterns. Exposure to these communication signals is affecting my brain chemistry. Temporary modifications to allow for enhanced information processing, explained Hyunwoo. You'll find that you can understand and process the network communications much more efficiently now. The changes will fade if the connection is severed, but while active, they will allow you to comprehend the full scope of what we're dealing with. Suddenly, Vextar looked up from his equipment with a shocked expression. Captain, I'm receiving a communication from the Valorian High Command. But it's not coming through our normal communication channels. It's coming through the human network. That's impossible, said Grendor. The High Command doesn't have access to human technology. Mireille and Hyunwoo exchanged another of their meaningful glances. Actually, they do, said Mireille. The Valorian government has been in partial contact with human representatives for over 50 years. They just haven't realized the full extent of human involvement in galactic affairs. What do you mean? Demanded Torvak. Hyunwoo walked over to the wall display which showed a detailed map of Valorian space. 17 Valorian worlds have human advisors embedded in their governments, research institutions, or military organizations. Your species has been benefiting from human technological and strategic advice for decades. The mining improvements, that increased resource extraction by 30% 12 years ago, added Mireille. The communication upgrades that allowed for better coordination between your colonies. Even the ship design improvements that made your exploration vessels more efficient. All of these included human innovations. Vextar was reading the communication from the High Command with growing amazement. They're requesting immediate contact with human representatives. They want to discuss what they're calling expanded cooperation protocols. How did they know to send this message? Because your arrival here triggered automatic notifications to government contacts throughout the galaxy, explained Hyun-woo. Every major alien civilization is receiving similar communications right now. The revelation phase has begun. Dr. Thane looked around at the group with growing alarm. You're talking about simultaneous first contact with every species in the galaxy. The disruption to galactic civilization will be enormous. The disruption from not being prepared when the Devourers arrive will be much worse, replied Mi-Ray. We've run thousands of simulations over the centuries. Gradual revelation and integration is the only scenario that results in galactic survival. As if to emphasize her point, new alarms began sounding from their ship. Grendor activated his emergency communicator and contacted their bridge crew. Captain, came the voice of their sensor operator. We're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the galaxy. Hundreds of previously unknown installations are coming online simultaneously. Some of them are larger than our biggest space stations. Defense installations, explained Hyun-woo. Research facilities, communication hubs, weapons platforms, and evacuation centers. All of them have been hidden but maintained for centuries, waiting for this moment. Vextar had been monitoring more of the network communications. Captain, I'm receiving reports from across the galaxy. Every major space lane has human installations revealing themselves, trade routes, military patrol areas, even the home systems of major civilizations. We told you that humans have been present throughout the galaxy, said Mi-Ray. But the scale is much larger than you realized. There isn't a single star system of any importance that doesn't have some level of human presence. Torvak studied the communication data that Vexitar was displaying. The scope of human infiltration into galactic civilization was staggering. How did no one notice this level of activity? Because we've been very good at being what each species expected us to be, replied Hyun-woo. Humans are naturally adaptive. With the right modifications, we can fit into almost any social or technological environment. Most alien species have been interacting with humans for generations without realizing it. Dr. Nyleth had been analyzing the biological data from the network. The communication system is doing more than just transmitting information. It's creating direct neural links between human colonies and alien populations. I can sense thought patterns and emotional states from across the galaxy. The network allows for unprecedented coordination and cooperation, confirmed Mi-Ray. When the Devourers arrive, every ship, every weapon, every individual will need to work together with perfect synchronization. That level of coordination is only possible through direct neural interface. You're creating a galactic hive mind, said Dr. Thane. We're creating a galactic defense system, corrected Hyun-woo. Individual consciousness and identity remain intact, but communication and coordination are enhanced to levels that would be impossible through normal means. Suddenly, the wall display activated to show a three-dimensional image of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light were appearing throughout the star map, each one representing a human installation coming online. 47 colonies in this sector alone, said Mi-Ray, pointing to their local area. Over 3,000 installations galaxy-wide, all of them now active and coordinating through the network. Vextar looked up from his communique.